And we are live. Welcome back to Memes and Markets. Keith,
Today is the best day of my life, Ben. How you doing?
today's fantastic. We have an awesome guest with us. I'll throw it back to you, Keith, to give a little intro to our guest, and then we'll throw it over to Rob.
Well, Rob, you're obviously making a lot of waves over the Twitter space in particular, talking about the law, laying down the law for the people. Um, Give us a brief 1 minute intro on yourself and what you've been up to.
Sure. I'm Rob Freund. I'm an advertising and e-commerce lawyer. My background, I started practicing law in 2012. I started my career at a big firm here in LA called Greenberg Traurig. I was there for about 6.5 years, and most of what I was doing was defense side commercial litigation. And within that, a lot of what I was doing was defending consumer class action lawsuits, especially those that had to do with false advertising issues. So in 2019, I decided that staying at a big firm is not what I wanted to do for the rest of my career, and opened my own practice. And the goal was to eventually get away from litigating and more towards helping clients avoid those sorts of cases that I was litigating in the first place. So it's a lot of what I do is almost like a consulting role where I help clients understand what the risks are in whatever they're doing with their business in terms of advertising or what they're considering doing, and help them get to a place where they're comfortable with whatever level of risk they're taking on, and they can still run campaigns that convert, hopefully. So most of my clients are direct-to-consumer brands, advertising agencies, business coaches and other types of coaches and consultants, and occasionally individual creators. But usually on the individual stuff, it's like if a creator is at the point where they're launching their own brand, or they have such a volume of deal flow that it makes sense to hire somebody like me to help them with that.
That's huge. Go ahead, Keith.
So Rob, can you break down for us like the entities that advertisers are typically having to be aware of and like play by the rules of? And in finance, it's the SEC and the CFTC. What does that look like in your world?
Yeah, it's primarily the FTC, the Federal Trade Commission, and then every state has an attorney general that enforces basically the state version of the laws that the FTC enforces. And then within this states, there are some more specific consumer protection laws that you have to be aware of. But generally what I'm thinking about is avoiding regulatory risk, like from the FTC or state AGs, competitor claims, like if you're in a certain industry and you're doing something that a competitor thinks is unlawful, that's eating into their market share or hurting their business, and their side of the street is clean, they can bring false advertising cases against you. And then probably the most immediate source of exposure is plaintiffs' lawyers and consumer class action claims. So that's your customers basically working with attorneys to get that sort of class action lawsuit going. So those are really like the three buckets of awareness.
How do they convene? Like, how does that start where they all get together to start filing something like that?
Usually they're like those three groups aren't really coordinating. I mean, sometimes the FTC will work with state AGs, but it's not like the government is working with plaintiffs' lawyers really. Sometimes you will see like a government action is followed by class actions because plaintiffs' lawyers see an opportunity. There's obviously something worth investigating if the government is going after a business for something. And sometimes it's the other way around too. Like if there are multiple class actions filed, that might get a regulator's attention. But the government and the private sector aren't really working together necessarily to get something going. But how any particular case gets started, it varies a lot. It can be something like, I mean, one of the I guess the way to put it is like there are things that can make it more likely that you will be sued. If you're racking up a lot of negative reviews on a platform like Trustpilot or the BBB, and those negative reviews happen to be about a similar issue, and it's not being addressed or it doesn't look like it's being addressed, then that makes it much more likely that someone with an interest in bringing a lawsuit will do so. But sometimes it's just random. I can get into that in a little bit more detail, but like, it's a pretty common question that I get is, you know, what sorts of things can I do to stay off the FTC's radar? Like, at what level do I need to start worrying about this stuff? And, you know, it's generally true that the bigger you get, the bigger of a target you become, but it's a mistake to think that, oh, because I'm not at, you know, $1 million a year yet, that I'm safe, because we know that's just not true. And it also depends on like what the issue is and the type of claim, but yeah, I don't want to start rambling.
No, you're good, man. Ramble as much as you want. You've got so much information that we all need. So when it comes to organic content versus paid content, does that change the rules all that much?
Not really, no. Yeah, generally speaking, no. And it is a common mistake to think like, well, we didn't put any ad dollars behind this content, and so we don't need to worry about, like, it's not advertising if we're not putting money behind it. And that's not true. That's not how regulators look at it. That's not how courts look at it. It's like, if you have a brand Instagram page, and basically you should assume that anything that you post on that page is going to be considered advertising for legal purposes. Same with your brand's website, you know, blogs, advertorials, whatever. Like, it doesn't really matter if you have dollars spent behind a piece of content in terms of figuring out whether that is advertising or not.
And so, wow, totally just blanked out. Right now, one of the big things that is also coming up is affiliates. So for people who are not super familiar, right, you have a brand who's advertising a product that they want to sell, and they essentially will recruit people to be to basically be a salesperson, right, for this product or service that they're offering. And so the difference here is that these people that are becoming affiliates for this product don't necessarily, they're not employees of the company. They have their own businesses or their own entities that they're doing all of the marketing on behalf of the product creators' behalf, right? So you've talked a little bit about this on Twitter, where there's like some level of liability that's still there for the business owner for what the actual affiliates are doing. Can you talk about some of that, or like some of the mishaps or ways in which people aren't thinking about that enough?
Yeah, so the FTC's position is that the advertiser and any endorser are equally responsible, or are both responsible for ensuring that any given piece of advertising complies with the truth in advertising rules and laws that the FTC enforces. So that, when I say endorser, that means if you have a material connection, and that's a defined term that the FTC uses, between an advertiser like a brand and someone giving an endorsement, like an influencer that you pay, or an affiliate who gets some kind of commission or has some other incentive to promote that advertiser or that brand, then, and that relationship would affect the weight or the credibility that your audience would give to that endorsement if they knew about it. So in other words, like, I might be more likely to go buy Nikes if a huge celebrity is wearing them and talking about how much they like them on social media. Like, the FTC would say people need to know that that person is getting paid when they post on their own socials, because that would affect how people evaluate that endorsement. And so a material connection exists in the sort of classic influencer example where you just pay somebody to post, but it also exists in that affiliate relationship where people are creating or promoting or disseminating content because they have a financial incentive to do so. And so because that material connection exists, both the brand and the affiliates are responsible for ensuring that whatever that content is truthful and not misleading and substantiated. That's like those are the three things that, broadly speaking, the FTC requires for any given piece of advertising content. So yeah, it's a mistake for a brand to think, well, you know, my affiliates are going to do what they want. I can't control what they do. So, you know, if they say that my vitamin can cure cancer, that's not on me. That's not how it works. And like, and vice versa. Like if you're an affiliate and you're putting out content and that brand says like, hey, we would love for you to say that this cures cancer, you don't get to say, well, hey, the brand just told me to do this. Like you have a responsibility to make a reasonable inquiry into what the ad says, and the obligation to disclose that connection falls on both the affiliate and the brand as well.
Something that I find interesting about this is, well, let me ask you, is there a place for the average person to go to like learn about this kind of stuff?
Yeah, I mean, I think the biggest issue, or one of the biggest issues in this space, is like an education or information gap. There is a place, like the FTC, to their credit, has a lot of information on their website, and they have, you know, you can read the text of the law itself. It's pretty dry. It's not like a good read, but they also have FAQ documents with like dozens of hypotheticals that are real world business situations. Like, I have a YouTube channel. Somebody sent me this to talk about, like, what do I need to do? And they will lay it out in pretty plain English, like, here's what we expect. And they have that for pretty much every category of issue that they cover. There's some document on the FTC's website where they try to explain for business owners and advertisers generally, like, what's expected of you and how do you achieve that. In addition to that, like there's my Twitter feed. there are other law firms that focus on advertising compliance that have blogs. I check those daily. There's a handful of them. But that's really it as far as I know. Like those are the resources. Like I have keywords set up on legal research platforms where if a keyword like influencer or e-commerce or something, if there's any court filing with that word in it, I get a little notification and I'll check it every day to make sure I'm on top of like what's going on. But yeah, there's not really like a great daily digest other than what I just said that's available. But if somebody is curious, the FTC does have a lot of really good resources.
So like that's cool that they actually do that, and that's why I wanted to make sure that I asked, because I also don't know. I haven't looked into that myself. So the thing is like we're moving into this world where the kids are saying, I want to be an influencer, right? So like that's the current path in life in a way. Like this is the dream of people. And I remember when I was in high school and I was running e-commerce stuff, running ads on Facebook. I didn't know what the FTC was. You know what I mean? Like I didn't even know that it existed.
Yeah.
So that's just kind of what's on my mind, is like all of these people that are coming into this space that have probably no idea that there are these types of rules and laws to look out for. And yeah, so it's just an interesting thought that yes, the FTC is providing information, but it's also like, you know, I mean, you also don't grow up and think about like, what's my state legislature like? How do I make sure I don't,
right?
You know what I mean? Go and commit a crime every day. So it's just such an interesting concept in general, I guess.
Yeah, I mean, it's like there's not really a lot of incentive to post about that stuff. Like it's not cool. It's not a lever like compliance isn't a lever you can pull and then like money comes out. Unlike a lot of what does well on Twitter, and like if you're trying to get into it, like people want to post about like what's working, what's printing, you know, like what steal this playbook. And like it's not like, hey, check out how well they implemented the subscription flow. Like no, people don't. I get why that content is not like in the mix of what you see if you go on socials and you're like, I want to make money on the internet. But it's not even just like, it's not just the younger people coming up who aren't aware of this. They're like established business people who are not aware of many of the rules and many of the things that are leading to high volumes of litigation. It's like you wouldn't really know about it unless you took the time to like actively go try to become aware of what's happening. And I think it's for the reason I said, like, it's not content that gets people's juices flowing. Like it's hard to sell. Like I couldn't really sell a course on like, here's how to be compliant. I mean, maybe I could, but it'd be a harder sell than like, here's how you can, use AI to
Make $1 million.
make 10,000 ads in a day.
Yeah, no doubt. I think a group coaching thing offer could be pretty great for you, or I'd buy you that course, to be honest. With the stuff that we're building, I would definitely be interested in that. But I get what you're saying. It's hard to get content around that to do well. But you had a post about the tomatoes yesterday that got 500,000 views. Do you mind talking about that?
Yeah, we were talking before just about how it's hard for me to predict like what cases will resonate with people and sort of take off. The highest views on a Twitter post I ever had was there was a Taco Bell lawsuit. I'll talk about the tomatoes in a sec, but there's a Taco Bell lawsuit where like basically the claim was that the actual amount of meat you get in, I think it was a Crunchwrap Supreme, is like a third or something of what the picture looks like. And the lawsuit had like pictures of like, here's what's on Taco Bell's menu and here's what it looks like when you open a Crunchwrap. And that got 20 million views. And it was like, I had posted other cases like that, and not all of them do so well.
Taco Bell's so popular though.
Yeah, but people really like wanted to talk about that, and I feel like the whole reason why I started focusing on advertising issues in my career is because like the whole concept is the most interesting area of the law to me. It's like, where is the line? What is misleading to the extent that it's illegal or not? And I feel like that is a lot of what people were talking about with Taco Bell. Like, well, a reasonable person knows that the picture is bullshit, versus other people who are like, if I'm going to spend $7 or whatever that costs, like I want it to look like what you're telling me it is. And people like debating that. And that's like basically the whole area of law boiled down is like, where do we draw the line and what's reasonable and all that. And yesterday's thing with the tomatoes is like sort of a different issue. It has less to do with like a company. So basically what happened was this business called Cento got sued. The allegation is that they are claiming that their packaging is misleading to the extent that it looks like these are certified San Marzano tomatoes. Apparently in Italy, there is a regulatory body that they have basically a monopoly on certifying something as being a San Marzano certified tomato or not. It's kind of like champagne has to come from France, but like there's one entity that gives out this certification. Wow. And they take it really seriously in Italy. I learned yesterday, apparently like 15 years ago, that business got raided by the Italian government and like somebody was criminally convicted for like counterfeit tomatoes. But it's basically like the allegation is like this company knows that it doesn't have the certification and yet its labels still are misleading people into think like these are certified San Marzano tomatoes. And so that's like the allegation is less like this is one variety of tomato when it's not, and more like this is an advertising problem on the label because you're making people think you have a certification that you don't.
Got it. And for all these lines, do they move, right? Like, are some of them being established during these court cases? Like, how does that all work?
Yeah, it depends. There are some lines that are like hard written, like black and white into whatever the relevant law is itself. Like something like Made in the USA has specific standards that you have to meet. And if you do not meet them, then you cannot say Made in the USA. Other things are when there's not that, like there's not a specific law about whatever the claim is, then courts apply the reasonable consumer test, which is like kind of an oxymoron because it's described as an objective test. Like the court's supposed to say like, all right, a consumer acting reasonably who's the type of person that would buy this could be misled by this or not. But really like that is inherently subjective to some extent because it's a judge trying to imagine based on other cases that are similar and based on their own experience of what's reasonable or not, applying that standard. So a lot of this stuff is you don't necessarily know where a court's going to land on what's reasonable or not. Like the Buffalo Wild Wings case that still hasn't ended about like, if you call a chicken nugget basically a boneless wing, does a reasonable person think that is a chicken wing that has been deboned and then like repackaged, or do people know that that's a chicken nugget? Like literally that case has been going on for years. So far, the court has said like it's not reasonable to think that that is a deboned wing. People understand that this is basically a chicken nugget. And that was another one that Twitter was like kind of split on. I think most people thought like, if you think this is a boneless, like a wing that's been deboned, then you're an idiot. I don't know. I'm not sure that I can't even remember what I thought before I read that lawsuit. But like, yeah, to answer your question, like the line depends, first of all, about whether there is legislation about whatever that particular claim is. And if not, then it's kind of like, well, what is the reasonable consumer? And that does change over time and based on context.
Do you think there's too much incentive in America for people to sue each other?
That is a good question. I go back and forth on this. I think that there are some laws that are sloppily written that lead to lawyers exploiting them to the point where we're not really addressing any kind of consumer harm anymore. And like the website ADA litigation, like basically if you are a business that offers things to consumers, it's overwhelmingly likely that you will be sued for a website ADA violation. The premise is like websites need to meet certain standards for visually impaired people to access all parts of it. It's kind of a nebulous standard. It hasn't really like precisely what you need to do for your website is not always clear. But there are law firms where their entire business model is just like suing every website for this. And most people will settle them for like 5 to 10K or something. And if you do that like 10 times a week, like that's a good business model. But are we really like fixing, like most of these websites don't change afterwards. Like they're not suddenly compliant because they've been sued. They just like pay the troll toll, a lot of them. And they sort of like build that into the cost of doing business. To me, that's not fixing the issue. Like if we are concerned about people who have visual impairments being able to access the web, which is a good concern, I think, like, but we're not actually fixing the web by having this whole industry pop up, then I think that's an example where you could say like we're too litigious and the incentives there are wrong. On the other hand, like I'm sensitive to, or I'm empathetic to the idea that we need consumer class actions in order to keep the marketplace somewhat fair.
Yes.
Regulators can't be everywhere. The FTC can't do everything. State AGs can't do everything. So who's going to pick up the slack? Like, is it really a pressing like issue that we need a federal court involved with if a tomato is labeled one thing or not, or like a bag of cereal is not filled as high as it should be? Like in isolation, no, but if nobody is enforcing those laws, then suddenly you get less and less cereal to the point where you have like a basically empty bag and nobody's getting cereal anymore. So totally. Like it in an ideal state, like you need that to keep, like that should reward businesses who are doing things the correct way.
Yes.
On the other hand, I also am sympathetic to clients who say like there's not enough enforcement, and because of that, like we feel like we need to skirt some of these things, or we need to do things we would prefer not to just to be able to compete. Like we understand that this might violate the letter of this state law, but everyone else is doing this, and if we don't do this, like we won't be able to do business. So I think I can't say like yes or no to that question. It's complicated.
Super.
I think some things are being exploited in a way that probably the people who wrote the laws did not intend, and it's like a net loss to society. But on the other hand, I think that like there should be incentives for the private sector to be able to enforce the laws that we write. Like we elect people to represent us. They write laws that are supposed to reflect what we want, and then we should enforce them if they're on the books in a lot of cases.
What would you change if you could?
What would I change?
Rob for California AG 2028.
Yeah, see, this is why I'm not ever going to do that. I don't know what I would change. That's a good question.
No worries.
Yeah, I mean, there are things that I sort of like laugh at, but I don't know what the solution is. Like,
Got it.
this is kind of tangential, but like the whole idea that we agree to terms of service when we sign up for things online is like kind of a joke to me. Like it's a fiction that we all buy into, to say like when somebody clicks, you know, a button and above it says I agree to the terms of service. Like, how many people have looked through that and understand like I just gave away my right to a jury trial? Like that like we do that probably at least weekly. If you sign up for anything, you have given up one of your fundamental societal rights, the right to a trial by your peers. But we do that all the time, and we all just sort of pretend like, well, it was there, you could have read it, and so you disclose it in just this way so that a court will say, yeah, you don't get to have a trial by jury anymore, or you gave up some other right that you weren't even aware of. I mean, I do this too. Like I install games. I don't read the like end user license agreement, because whatever, I just accept that there are certain things in there that maybe I wouldn't like if I knew about them, and that's like okay with me. I've made that decision. But yeah, I think like the whole concept of like, well, you need to align or design a website in just this way, and if you click it, if you make somebody click this, then that means they're bound. If they don't click it, then they're not. I don't know what the answer to that is, but it's something that I think about a lot.
No, that's a big one. Keith, you got something?
When people are advertising or in this world of consumer protection and whatnot in general, where are there lines between what's a civil infraction and then when people start to creep into the criminal side of things?
Yeah. So nothing that the FTC enforces directly is criminal. Like, if you're sued by the FTC, you're not going to jail.
Gotcha.
If you're sued by the FTC and the DOJ, which sometimes happens, then they can pursue criminal charges. But usually, like, your advertising is not going to get you into criminal territory unless it gets into fraud territory, which, there is a lot of overlap there sometimes, but like it needs to be serious is not the right way to put it, but like, I'll give you an example. In the subscription context, like if you don't comply with California's rule about obtaining affirmative consent to the subscription terms, you might face a class action for that, or the state AG might bring a case under California's auto renewal law, but nobody's going to jail for that. If instead you promise somebody like, we're going to ship this product to you every 30 days and you don't ship it at all, that is fraud, and that is much more likely to become a criminal matter. And there have been criminal cases about that, people who are just like not shipping product at all and just like taking the money. So it needs to, I guess the way of looking at it is like, the more black hat and the more just outright fraud it feels is probably a good indicator of whether like this is something that it could be in criminal fraud territory.
Got it.
But generally speaking, like, unsubstantiated claims, unless they're wild to the point of like becoming fraud, not going to be a criminal matter. Not to, like, anything about not disclosing a relationship between an advertiser or an endorser. Nobody's going to prison or jail for that. That's not criminal. The overwhelming majority of the stuff that I talk about on my Twitter is civil stuff. And in most cases, there's not any kind of like criminal equivalent to that.
Got it.
There, some of the exceptions I'm just thinking of like off the top of my head are like the no shipping stuff I was talking about. Some of the like passive income Amazon automation people have been charged criminally. There's that guy in Utah who got like 8 years recently for doing that. Again, most of those cases are civil, but occasionally, like, if there's enough consumer harm and it seems like, hey, these people are really just taking money on false pretenses, then that can tip over into this is a criminal fraud matter.
What was it exactly that happened with the Amazon like automation thing or whatever?
Yeah, it's basically like this guy, the way that scheme works, and it's popular enough. There have been at least a dozen cases over the last few years. The premise is somebody says, hey, if you give me something like $25,000 to $70,000, you don't have to do anything. I will set up an Amazon storefront for you. I will source all of the product. I will run the entire store. And once you make the initial investment back, we'll split the profits, whatever the split is. The problem with that is that almost no one ever makes money with that. And most people don't make that initial investment back. And then if you try to exercise whatever, like a lot of those people also promise a money back guarantee or like a refund. And then it turns out it's really hard to get a refund back because they'll say, oh, the store was suspended for reasons beyond our control, or like, we buried some condition to the refund here and just keep working with us, whatever. And then a lot of people invest a lot of money and they don't get it back. And the FTC has brought, I don't know, probably 10 of those cases. States are pretty active. There have been class actions about it. And then there's this dude in Utah, either last year or 2 years ago, who his name was something the Bull. I can't remember. That tweet did really well because the guy was dressed like a psycho. Like the photo of him, he was wearing like super skinny jeans and like boots with like a kitten heel or something. But anyway, he was running that sort of thing, and the allegation was like he basically stole tens of millions of dollars from people who saw no returns and weren't willing to give it back.
Okay. That's wild. One thing that I saw someone mention in the chat earlier was the McDonald's hot coffee lawsuit. Was that real? Like, did that actually happen? And is that the reason why they have to say hot on these things now?
That's real, and that is like the example of people thinking that, oh, this is a frivolous lawsuit and this is what's wrong with the legal system. But a lot of people don't realize like that was a very serious issue. The woman got third-degree burns on her lap. Like she could have died from what happened. Like the coffee was way beyond like just hot coffee. People think of it as like, oh, who doesn't know that their coffee is going to be hot? Like, wait a second before you sip it. It's like, no, this drink spilled in this person's lap and like caused severe damage to her body because it was like out of control, too hot, like recklessly hot. Like it should never be even close to that temperature. So that's actually an example where like she deserved to get that money because what McDonald's did at that store was objectively unreasonable, like way beyond what is normal or safe. Another one that people like to use is like the guy who, the way it's characterized is Red Bull being sued for their slogan, "It gives you wings." That's a real case, but it wasn't about like the guy didn't literally grow wings. What the case was about was Red Bull's advertising was saying it's more effective than the caffeine that you get from coffee. And that was not a claim that they could substantiate and allegedly just was not true. And I think that case ended in a settlement payment to the guy. But it's not like you can just sue because an ad says something outlandish no one would believe. Like that's a category of claim that the law calls puffery. If it's just exaggeration, boasting, not something that anybody would take as a claim they would rely on, or it's something that you can't prove true or false. Like Monster could say like, we have the best energy drink in the world. And that's fine. Like that's puffery. They're not saying anything you can measure. Anybody can say like they're the best. There's nuance there if you start saying things like this is the best for alertness or something like that. But generally like those sorts of vague statements are safe. And so when Red Bull says give you wings, no reasonable person is going to think you're going to sprout wings. But if they say like, hey, this is twice as effective as a cup of coffee, then you need to have evidence for that.
Makes sense.
Also, how does a guy, it's just some random guy gets to sue Red Bull and he gets to get paid because he filed the lawsuit?
Yeah. Yeah. So like the way it works usually or very often with class action claims, and that's usually how these are brought because that's the only way the economics works. Like if I buy a $2 can of a drink and I sue just on behalf of myself and not as a class action. And the claim is like, I wouldn't have bought this $2 product if I knew whatever the truth was about the ad. My damages there are usually going to be $2. Like, I haven't been injured. I'm out $2. It's not going to be worth suing somebody for $2 usually. If there's mandatory attorney's fees or whatever, like maybe somebody would do that, but it's not going to be worth it in most cases. The class action mechanism changes that, because you can one person can file the case on behalf of everyone in the country or everyone in a particular state who also bought that product and saw those ads. So if you have 1 million people who bought a $2 product, you have a $2 million case instead of a $2 one. And so the way a lot of these cases get started is law firms will investigate advertising or other practices of a certain business, determine like, hey, there's a claim here. Let's get a plaintiff for this. And so then you might see ads on Instagram that say things like, did you buy Monster? You may be entitled to compensation. Or like, did you visit this website and buy something from it? You might get $2,000, $5,000. People fill out those forms. The law firm reaches out. If it's somebody who does have a good claim, like it's not too old, it fits, what they need to assert for that cause of action to work, then they file it using on behalf of that one individual, and it'll say like John Smith on behalf of others similarly situated. And then that law firm gets to say like, this is our guy, this is his experience, and we're going to allege and ultimately prove that everybody in California or the country had the same experience. Your exposure as a business now is $2 million plus attorney's fees. That's how most of these things get started. So like the guy whose name is on it is not going to get, millions of dollars. Usually they'll get whatever the statute entitles them to, which might be $2,000 or $5,000. And then if the case goes through and the court approves it to proceed as a class action, basically what they call certification, then at the end of the case, whether through a class-wide settlement or a judgment, the person who is named as the plaintiff will get some kind of payment for that, like maybe a 5-figure additional payment for to compensate them for being putting their name on it and maybe being deposed or whatever else. The real financial winners in class actions tend to be the lawyers. Yeah. But again, like if it weren't for that class action mechanism, then businesses could screw a lot of people for a little money all the time.
It's accountability.
There's nothing you can do about it if the government doesn't step in.
Makes total sense. I'd love to talk about AI and AI UGC, because as someone who runs online businesses that are software focused, like most of my competitors use AI content all the time. And it's not something that I've touched because I do feel like people may be breaking rules without knowing it. So I would love to hear about that whole world and what's going on.
Yeah, there's, again, I think there's a lot of issues that sort of get confused there, in part because it's new. Like it's not immediately new, but it's still evolving, and there are new ways for people to deploy AI, and the tools are getting more realistic and so on. But most of like the stuff that I'm thinking about with AI is just applying existing laws to the way people are using these tools. And it's a mistake to think that like, well, if there's not a specific AI law, then it's like the Wild West and we can do whatever we want until it gets better regulated. That's not true. And the same sorts of rules and laws that apply from the FTC or from the states that apply to like traditional influencer marketing or traditional sponsored content apply to the same extent to AI stuff. So an example is it's not true that you can't ever use AI generated people in ads. But one of the FTC's rules is that if you have someone giving an endorsement, if you have someone who looks like, or the audience would think is not affiliated with the brand directly, like it's not the brand saying something, it's through someone else, and that person is giving a favorable opinion or promoting whatever that product is, then that person's endorsement or their testimonial has to reflect their actual beliefs and their honest opinions about their product, even if they're paid. So it's a separate issue from disclosing like, hey, this is sponsored content. Like, even if I pay somebody to talk about Monster Energy drink, if they've never had a can of it, they can't go on and say like, this is my favorite way to start the day. I love this before work and so on. And there have been a number of FTC cases about exactly that issue. One example, a few years ago, Google partnered with iHeartRadio stations to promote the Google Pixel phone. And part of what they were doing was they were having radio hosts read some sort of script about like, oh, I love the Pixel, I love what it does, blah, blah, blah. One way or another, the FTC found out that like most of these hosts never even received a phone from Google. They had iPhones, they never used the thing. And so the allegation was like, this is a false endorsement. They're saying things that don't reflect their experiences because they never had the phone. So if you bring that into the AI context, if you have an AI generated person holding up, I'll stick with Monster because it's on my desk. They're holding up a can and they're like, I love this. This fuels my workouts. Or like, I'm Miami's highest paid surgeon and I always drink Monster before a surgery or whatever. Like, that cannot reflect their honest belief because they're not a real person. However, if they just hold it up and they're like, Monster Energy has 0 sugar and has 200 milligrams of caffeine, that's not an endorsement. That's just like conveying factual information about the product. Wow. And that's okay. Like you don't run into that issue in that situation. And that's the line that I see, like the stuff on Twitter that does really well when people are talking about like, look at our AI creators, like the stuff that always does well is when they're giving endorsements.
Yes. And
then like if some people have been called out for that and they're like, well, I would never like use it this way and like you shouldn't use it this way, but like the reason we have laws about it is because it works. Like that's why people want to do it. And like because people are misled by it, that's why marketers want to do it. But that's also like why the FTC has rules about it.
So I want to do an example live with you because Ben, you sent me this.
This show is crazy. Yes.
I'm super curious to hear, Rob, how you would interpret this one right here.
Oh, what the is that? Oh, this is sexy. 10 out of 10. I can barely smell it. It is really good, but 5 out of 10. Is this the same one as the first one?
Maybe.
Oh, then it's a 10 out of 10 for sure. Oh, what the is that? 2 out of 10. This is the second one. Ooh, it's a bit stronger though. I love that. 9 out of 10.
Yeah, that would be a problem if you ran that.
Interesting.
I mean, you have people who are not real endorsing that like $35 product. This is somebody who's saying like, I've just smelled this. I reacted to it in this way and I really like it. It's fake. Like that. And the way you could make that compliant is you would need to clearly and conspicuously disclose on the screen in like readable text or audibly or audibly, like these aren't real people. This is a skit basically.
Got it.
Of course, no one is going to want to do that because then the ad falls apart.
Yeah, totally. Yeah. And one thing that you mentioned that made me think of something is that I remember back in the day when Twitter used to say what device you tweeted from. Someone was promoting an Android phone and it said like from an iPhone on the tweet.
Nice. Yeah, classic.
Yeah, that was so funny, man.
Very interesting, man. Yeah. When it comes to using AI for this user-generated content, I definitely don't see. I mean, people would have to know, for one, what you just said, and like that is the way to do it. And oh my goodness, it's definitely not.
So many rules being broken, man. Oh my goodness. And so I make Rob. I have consumer apps, and so that world is crazy. It's the Wild West, and people are using UGC content like that, and almost all of it that I see is breaking the rules. But one thing in particular that I've found that's a crazy thing is that like people just steal apps now, like completely. They'll literally like steal the entire thing and change the color. Is that fair game?
No, I mean, in the way that you described it, no. Like and I've seen, who is it that's doing? Man, there's one app that sued 2 others, and it kind of blew up in Twitter beef recently. Oh my god, it was some like health tracking app that's suing 2 others for infringing on their trade dress. Basically, they're saying like the layout and the look and feel of our app is distinctive, and when people see it, they associate it with our app. And these two people are trying to enter the same space and ripping us off. One of the companies that got sued did like a whole response video trying to show how it's different. I'll find it later and send it to you. But
Cool.
There's that issue. Like if you're copying the look and feel of somebody's product or offering, whether it's the website or the product label, or in that example, the UI of an app, you may have a trade dress infringement claim. Additionally, like if you're wholesale just taking assets like visual content, then whoever initially created that, if they register it with the Copyright Office, which is not hard to do, you potentially have a copyright infringement claim too. So like,
Got it.
It's definitely not the move to just like completely rip somebody off. I know it happens a lot. I know people get away with it, and sometimes people on Twitter will even post
Brag about it.
They'll brag about it, or the people who are being ripped off are like, it's too much hassle to get lawyers involved, but look at these people, fuck these people.
Yeah.
Basically.
Totally. I've had people rip off my apps. It's the same thing. Yeah.
Yeah.
Like they literally will just copy and paste it. It's also created a really bad culture where they'll literally like brag about that. Like some of the biggest creators in that space, they're literally like, find an app that's working. That was a creative idea. Steal it and change the name.
Yeah. Especially with AI, people will be like, I threw this into Claude or whatever, and it cloned it. It's like, what does that sound like to you? Does that like, have you heard of intellectual property before? I'm being glib about it, but like some of the stuff I'll read, and if you just take a step back and like imagine that you're not in the space. If you told somebody like, hey, this business had a great idea and I took it, like that doesn't sound like something you should be doing, right? Like a lot of this stuff kind of gets back to common sense. Like if you think you're being sneaky or clever, that's an indication that maybe what you're doing is worth a second look. Something it might be okay, but that should give you pause. But I would definitely say, like in any case, it's like you should not be bragging about that on Twitter. I had a tweet recently that was like, this was after the whole MedV thing. It was like the best thing you can do after you make a lot of money really quickly is shut the fuck up.
Yes.
Like don't. Why do you have to tell people about it? There's almost never any upside to that unless you didn't really have that success and you're selling a course around it, or like, I don't really know why else you would like broadcast like, hey, I made a lot of money really quickly. I want everyone to know. Like everyone's going to start looking at what you did.
You put a target.
And even if you did everything correctly, like you still are more likely to be sued. Like litigation is kind of a fact of life if you're in business long enough.
Mhm.
Somebody's going to try to sue you, even if you do everything right and there's no claim. Like it will happen eventually. So why would you accelerate that by like doing an interview tell-all with the New York Times about how you made $1 billion in a year? Like it makes no sense. It really doesn't.
It's fascinating, man. One thing that I think you may have posted about this, but it definitely went around the consumer app Twitter community, where this guy had just launched his app and he said like over 1 million users or something like that.
Yeah, but it was day one. He's got like 50,000 5-star reviews or something. And the reason why anyone even paid attention to that is because like someone called that out and he was like, everyone does it. Like,
true.
What's wrong with this? Like admitting like, yes, that's a lie. And it probably violates the App Store rules, but other people do it. It's like yeah, that's true. And that does happen, and not everyone who does it gets sued. But do not talk about it. Like, why are you saying that on social media? It makes no sense at all.
It's fascinating.
The other one of those that just came up was that streamer guy who was like talking about how he buys streamers or whatever. And
the Bob Menery, right?
yeah, that guy.
Yeah, dude, I interviewed him a long time ago. And he is a fascinating character. Like he literally's like, why wouldn't I buy these bots? I'm like, I don't think.
Yeah, because like there's a law specifically about that. Is why. Like there's literally an FTC rule that says buying and selling fake followers is illegal. Like fake indicators of social media influence is specifically against the law. Like don't tell people you're doing this. I mean, yeah, I don't get that, why people do that.
So with the subscription stuff, because it seems like that's something that you deal with a lot. Could you walk us through what the biggest mistakes that people make when it comes to subscription-based things?
Yeah. So this is one of those areas where there's a federal law that applies no matter where in the U.S. you're selling, and then there are most states at this point. I think it's most at this point have their own version of a subscription law. California is the most restrictive, so like there are exceptions to this, but generally speaking, if you comply with California's law, then you're most of the way, if not all the way, to compliance. California is also where most of these lawsuits happen, so it's a good idea to pay attention to what those laws are. But basically, like the biggest issues, there are a number of things you have to do in terms of what you have to tell customers before they submit their payment information when they enroll in a subscription, the way you tell that to them, the way you get their consent to those terms, the confirmation email you send them, the renewal reminders that you send them if you have to, and the ways in which you have to let them cancel. The biggest of those, the things that lead to legal trouble the most are getting consent after disclosing the terms of the subscription, and then making it easy enough to cancel. A lot of that seems obvious, or it seems like there was just one on Twitter today I saw this morning where people were like, hey, what you're doing in this subscription flow is scummy. And other people were saying like, well, technically it's legal. And some people were saying like, well, even if it's not legal, like read the website before you buy something. It's sort of taking like the buyer beware tack on it. The thing about this subscription laws, though, is like, even if you think you're compliant and clear, like, hey, on the website, I tell you, you're signing up for a subscription. We're going to ship this to you every month. We're going to charge you this much every month, and like email us or whatever. It just as an example, if you want to cancel, there can still be several problems with that. Like the law gets very specific about everything that you need to tell people, how it's presented before somebody submits their billing information, the way that you need to show or be able to show that somebody specifically agreed to the subscription terms, and then the ability to let somebody cancel exclusively online without a bunch of steps that get in the way. So it ultimately, like in a subscription class action, it doesn't matter that much how much you violated the law. Like if somebody just, hey, we didn't disclose any of these terms, and somebody just signed up, or we just automatically enroll them, versus like somebody who maybe had all the information, but they didn't get the consent correctly, or they were like, you have to call us to cancel instead of we have, a button from my account. Those have the same exposure under the law. And so a lot of these cases have very high settlement value, even though maybe the business like tried to comply into the way they thought was compliant. Like, okay, we told people what they're doing. We used maybe like the default Shopify template or whatever for a subscription product, but here we are being sued under this California law that says like, I didn't disclose how to cancel in a confirmation email or something. It's like, yeah, that's a really specific violation, but it's still, there's still a claim that you violated the subscription law. So you're facing the same exposure as the guy who didn't disclose anything. So I guess the point I'm making is like, it's worth understanding the specifics of what states like California require, and looking at the complaints, like the actual lawsuits that get filed, is really informative, because it shows you what the lawyers on that side are looking for on a website. There's almost always screenshots and then an explanation of what they are alleging, like why doesn't this comply with this part of California's law. And if you look at those, and I post a lot of them, you can line that up against with what your website is doing and think like, okay, maybe it's worth talking to somebody about whether we'd be able to defend this or not.
And really quickly here, like as the business, you're responsible for adhering to, because everything's online now, you're responsible for adhering to each and every state's laws around this stuff if those people are consumers of your business?
Yeah, if you're sending stuff into one of those states, like if somebody can place an order on your website and get whatever that product or service is where they live, then yeah, then you need to comply with the law of the state where they are. Some businesses will geofence that way and just say, like, I'm not doing California. It's too fucked up. And I get that. But, it's also a huge economy, so you might not want to do that. But yeah, if somebody can go on your brand site and buy something and have it delivered to where they live, then for the subscription stuff, at least, and like the pricing and other issues, then you have to comply with the state of where that person lives, the laws of that state.
Yeah, see, that's fascinating. I mean, when you look at the financial world, like, yes, each state has their own laws around how to file for securities transactions and things of that nature, but there is the Uniform Securities Act,
Right.
which helps to regulate that to where you don't just have crazy laws that states are essentially allowed to make around the selling and buying of securities. It's a really different thing.
Yeah, some areas of law are just like that. Like the copyright's different. We have the Copyright Act. There's not really like state copyright infringement issues. Like we have a federal law, and that's basically that. But subscription stuff is not that way. Privacy stuff is not that way. We don't even have a federal privacy law, really. We have this sort of patchwork of state laws that people have to figure out. But yeah, subscriptions is like that. Like some states have really specific things. Like North Carolina has a thing about if the price of the subscription is going to change after the initial term, which is often the case with stuff like newspapers, where they'll be like $1 a month for the first year and then $30 a month, whatever. North Carolina says the next price, like whatever the price difference is, when you tell people about that has to be in bold and it has to be size 12 font. That's how specific they got. One of the newspapers, I think it was the New York Times, got sued in North Carolina for not doing just that part. And the newspaper's argument was, trying to get the case dismissed, was like, what does font size mean on mobile, like, or different devices? Like, how do you even know what that is? Like, it's too vague for us to even know, like, what do you mean font size on different medium? And the court said, I don't know, but they've alleged plausibly that you didn't do it, and so you can't dismiss it yet. And then the case like settled right after that. And that's like, who would know that North Carolina has a specific font size thing unless you were like really in the space and paying attention to it? But to your point, it's like, yeah, there are, at least I think 20 at least states that have variations of these subscription laws, and a lot of them are like neatly aligned. Like I said, like if you're compliant in California, that covers most of it. But some of them have these peculiar things, like North Carolina, like Vermont has, and a couple others.
A couple other things I wanted to touch on before you leave, man. The stuff that's going on with the gambling industry. Big influencers promoting huge online, offshore, sometimes like gambling sites and whatnot, and the level of compliance of those sites to US laws and other laws. Have you looked into any of that at all, or what is your take on all of that?
I haven't looked into, like, I don't pay that much attention to it because gambling and gaming is kind of its own regulated area that I'm not the guy for that. I know people who are experts in that, and when those issues come up for clients, I refer them to the people who really know like that world. But the issues about influencers promoting them and needing to disclose are the same as in any other industry. And there's like tons and tons of non-compliance. Like every steak ad, basically, like that I've seen that's posted on a third-party account is not disclosing the fact that there have been a lot of hidden ads from that business. And I don't mind calling them out, because just like on a personal note, like I think the prediction markets are absolute cancer on society. I hope all of those businesses go bankrupt, and I hope everybody involved with them has a really bad time. So I don't like seeing all these disguised ads for so-called prediction markets and gambling sites. And if there's any sector of business that I'd like to see regulators throw the book at more than they already are, it's the those prediction markets. I know Kalshi's in a lot of legal trouble with different states accusing them of gambling, which I think makes sense because that's what they are. But yeah, I would like to see more enforcement on the undisclosed ad side of that as well.
Yeah, we'll definitely we'd definitely love to get in touch with anyone that you know around those gambling laws and gaming laws in particular.
For sure, yeah. I'll send you some resources.
Amazing. And then the other thing you posted this morning about Iggy Azalea being sued in a false advertising class action today involving the mother meme coin. So in general, right over the past 5-6 years, tons of celebrities getting caught up in promoting crypto stuff and having no idea what they're doing. Any particular take on this case, or when you look at this stuff in general?
Yeah, this one I sort of skimmed over because a lot of these cases, like you said, like this is not the only one, and a lot of them follow similar allegation patterns. It's like some celebrity has been involved to be the figurehead with maybe varying levels of actual involvement to promote some kind of crypto project, and then when it doesn't pan out the way that people hoped it would, lawsuits happen. Like Jake Paul has been sued for this, a number of others. They're still being sued for this, and a number of others. So like from sort of a quick enough review to tweet about, it looks like the claim is that Iggy Azalea was saying like, hey, if you become a holder, we're going to have access to this online casino, and we're going to have all of these other things you can do with your coin that give it utility beyond just being like an investment or speculation vehicle. And these certain players in New York are behind it and are basically like endorsing it. And the claim is like, number one, the people you identified as backing this aren't as involved as you made it seem. And the stuff that you said was going to give it utility never panned out. And allegedly, like you had no reason to think it would pan out. And so it's like a fraud type of claim, which is like, you know, pretty common in the crypto space. Like a lot of projects I've seen to go this way where like they get a lot of buzz because some celebrities involved, and then like, oh, everything we promised, not everything panned out.
Big time, big time. Well, I know you got a heart out, Rob, so I just want to thank you for your time. Everybody who's watching this, go over to his Twitter right now. We made it the first link in the description. So whether you're here with us live or watching the replay, go over and follow Rob. He posts stuff like this all the time. He's one of my favorite follows on Twitter, so definitely go show him some love.
Well, thanks for having me, guys. Yeah, this is fun, and hopefully we can do it again sometime.
Definitely, man. We'd love for you to come on whenever there's a story to talk about, especially in the crypto world, because we talk about that a lot. So yeah, we'll have you on whenever you have the time.
All right. Sounds good.
Cheers. Thank you, Rob.
See you guys.
Have a great day, man. He's awesome. Super smart, dude.
Fantastic. Yes. Very cool, man. It's like not a lot of people in the legal field take to the internet to talk about what they know.
And he's been doing this for a while. Like I told you, I met him on Clubhouse when that was all a thing during COVID. And it was so fascinating because NFTs were going crazy there. And he was really like the only one that was considering the legal stuff at all, right? In all these rooms and whatnot, because we got thrown up on stages a lot. Like I was usually the social media guy and he was the law guy in a lot of these rooms. And so like he would listen to people talk and then he'd basically be like, yeah, well, that's breaking a lot of laws. Like, it was awesome, dude.
That's hilarious, man.
Yeah, no, Rob's awesome.
That's funny. Yeah, those are, I mean, we've seen a lot of wild westery type of stuff. I'm trying to remember. There was also a time where Sam Bankman-Fried did something on a I'm trying to remember what it was. It was him and Tom Brady. They were on a Twitter Spaces and they like did something and people were just like, wait a minute, what's going on? Maybe somebody in the chat will remember what happened there. Awesome. But crazy times in the crypto world, and it's cool to have somebody who's once again out here openly talking about this stuff because it's very rare.
Super needed. It's also good for us because anything that we do, like we can also talk to him beforehand and be like,
oh yeah,
are we gonna get cooked here? And let's make sure we're good. But Wes said, my professors won't talk to me about crypto at all. They think it's fake. I think that's a lot of people. And,
Yeah.
and can you really blame them? right? Even the people here who have tried to educate, have they educated in a way that they could even reasonably expect the average person to give it 10? And I would argue absolutely not. Or like look at the options that are out there, right? If you don't have a compelling enough hook to come into this space and the only thing is dollar go up, but it's gone down so much too, is that a fair expectation that people would watch? And I would argue adamantly no.
Right. I remember this in my university days. I guess we probably had it a little bit harder. It was less of a thing at the time. And even just like friends who went to other universities talking to their economics professors and things, and them like just not taking it seriously, not trying to hear it out at all. And yeah, I mean, it's super interesting. I was doing some street interviews a few months ago downtown, and this was something that came up as well. He was like, I don't know what Bitcoin is, but my professor told me it's worthless and this and that. I was like, well, if he says it.
It's also, I just think about other parallels, right? Go back to the internet. People were like, oh, the internet's a fad. People won't spend time online, all this stuff, right? And then it happened. And I would say that like finance in general is such an outdated technology. And so many of these people have never really thought about how these things function, right? In today's operations, right? And so I've been so fascinated to like learn more and more about that, because as someone who builds software, a lot of these systems are built on software, but they were built by software that was hired by politicians that hired contractors, right? Or like
Mm-mm.
they outsource the work to these firms, right?
Mhm.
So let's play a hypothetical game. Do you think they hired the right person? Almost never, right? So that means that you're stacking tech debt on these systems. So like they try to make it seem like these things are a lot more connected than they are
Mm.
right now. Like they're pretty analog in terms of how the connection takes place, which is also why to keep things going, they need blockchain.
I hear. I
You know what I'm
hear.
saying?
I hear what you say.
Do you agree or disagree?
I mean, if you use blockchains from the original place of where you're developing on top of, you get a couple of benefits. One of them could be the security
That's a
aspect of
big piece too.
everything. And then the other thing is veracity, right, of information as it
Mhm.
goes through. Uh, so, right, why not? It's something that can be helpful. And then we've talked a lot about on this show the need for, if you're going to use, the thing about blockchains is like the way that I started to see it when they started to do the private blockchain thing, I started to realize that a public permissionless blockchain as like the base layer of something to build any sort of an application on top of is probably not the way to do
You
it.
can't do it.
Because you got to have some level of privacy, right?
Yeah.
So then it comes to like, okay, so I love this conversation. You can settle the information and whatnot on a private chain, and then you can settle the actual settlement of the payment on a public chain.
So you know what happened, but not who did it?
Exactly. Or yeah, exactly. You can know what happened, not who did it. You could know that something was paid for, but not for what,
True.
right? And so yeah, so I'm sure midnight, right, is something that's trying to do that inherently built into the mechanism of the whole system,
Mhm.
right? How can I selectively disclose information?
Totally. And they're one of the biggest players in it, and I think they just need a wow product that gives an experience that like you can't get elsewhere that's built on it.
Hmm.
And I think that can be the eye-opening moment, because people need that, right? Like everyone thought the internet was a fad until they had an experience that was uniquely tailored to their interests or their problems,
Hmm.
right? So for the kids, why did that happen way faster? Because we were way more open to it, right? Like I remember the first YouTube video that I saw, I was hooked. 'Cause I'm like, this is so cool.
Hmm.
Do you know what I mean? Whereas my dad or whatever would have been like, this is bullshit. And I understand why, right? Because they're in a system where there's so much force and like conditioning going against something like that. We don't teach people to be adaptive or like innovative at all. It's not rewarded. Like think about every structure that we go through. If you try to do that, you typically get shit on,
100%.
which is so silly. But so I use that as a good indication of like, I look around, who's calling me an idiot? And do I respect them? Do you know what I'm saying? Or like, are they qualified to call me an idiot in this realm of life or business?
Right.
And 9 times out of 10, they're not. And if they were, they probably wouldn't be calling you an idiot. They'd probably be trying to help you. If they actually knew what they were saying, right? Like if I run into someone and they're making a mistake, I don't call them a dumbass. I say, hey man, I made that mistake too. It cost me XYZ thing. Here's what you may want to do instead.
Right.
Right?
Love it. Yeah, especially if you're thinking about going to like a professor and trying to talk to them about stuff. There's two sides to that. As a professor, as someone who's supposed to be seeking and helping with knowledge and truth, and you might want to ask the kid questions and like figure out what's
Totally.
on their head. And that was the thing that I was so like that amped me up back then because I'm like, dude, we've spent hours, you know what I'm saying, like understanding this thing,
Totally.
and you're just like, oh, this is stupid. Go away.
I think most professors, this is also why I had a bad taste in my mouth for university, is that I could see that most professors were just concerned about maintaining their job. They weren't concerned with advancing knowledge or discovery. They were just concerned with getting the paycheck and leaving, right? And the whole thing felt like that. Like it felt like I was cattle going through a machine, like just like go here, get this Scantron. You know, it was all the same bullshit. I'm like, this is not what I thought it would be. Like I really thought when I got to university, it'd be like what I've been waiting for my whole life. Because in school, I would always try to ask questions and be like, no, stay on topic, Ben. And I'm like, the topic is stupid. Like I can very clearly see that this will have no practical utility in any way of life. Like it's so apparent, right? So I thought university would be like, that'd be celebrated. And I'm like, this place is not like that either.
Yeah, that's funny. I mean, I don't think I thought at all about how much of an opportunity I would have to learn in university. I think I was just like, oh, this is gonna be fun.
Yeah, for me, it was like I was hoping that it would be more like that because I always hated class in regular schools. Also, I went for football. But yeah, I'm sure obviously the fun piece was a big part of that as well. I think that's why most people go today because it's more apparent than ever that if you're in a basic program, like it's not equipping you with too much that most of the world doesn't have already. But did you have any good experience with profs that were open to this stuff?
Mm, no, not this stuff, man. No, but I probably just should have gone harder to find the people who would be. Um, I was in like marketing and stuff, so I didn't
Got it.
spend enough time around like finance and economics, to be honest.
Bro, yeah, school was crazy too. I almost failed a math course because like the person's handwriting, their nines look like the fours. So like I knew I crushed the test. That was worth like 30% of my grade, bro.
Ooh,
And then I get it back saying I got a 48. And I was like, there's literally no way. But I'd never been to the class before, so the professor didn't know me. So then I came in and I'm like, I know I didn't do that bad. Can I see my test? And the person's their nines looked like fours. So if I
whoa.
didn't go, I would have lost 50% of the grade.
That's wild, bro.
Yeah, man. So I'm sure it's improved now a little bit with tech and stuff, but yeah, school was some crazy shit.
But yeah, it's always cool when you do have like those professors that care about other stuff. I never had like a super close relationship with any of my university professors.
I'm trying to run through all the classes that I took. I took an entrepreneurship class. That was
Nice.
hilarious. Yeah.
Very cool.
That was fun. We built a fake app in there.
Okay.
And so like I handled all like the UI UX for that thing, and then the presentation that we did. That was a lot of fun. And then but I can't really think of, granted I didn't go to class enough to build a relationship, but I can't think of any profs that I had like a really good relationship with. There was one guy that everyone said in my program was really cool, but getting into his class was almost impossible. And he ran like this digital marketing thing where all my buddies who also ran businesses were like, this is the only guy who kind of knows what he's talking about in the whole school for like for the business. And so I tried to get in there. I even wrote like this long letter, like explaining like, here's my Rolodex of clients for my agency. And he's like, I don't care. It's full. I was like, okay.
Dang. There was one cool guy that was on campus, and he wasn't even he was just a law professor. And I don't know how I even found this guy's info, but like he would like help kids with legal stuff.
Wow.
And so like specifically it was like an entrepreneurship like legal thing that he would just do. He would just like come to my office, like I'll help you with anything in your business and whatnot with legal stuff. And so I remember going to him with like contracts and stuff, and I was trying to like get on this show for MTV and stuff like that, and he would look over this and he would like give us feedback. I'm like, bro, like, this is awesome. This guy
That's
is
super
sick.
cool.
And he really loved it. Like he just
That's
loved
rare.
when people had ideas and like would talk to them about the stuff. And I was just like, man, what a cool guy, man.
That's badass. I feel like that's how you'd be as a professor.
For sure, man.
Be badass.
Pull
But
up.
some questions in the chat. Did you go to school on scholarship? I did not. I could have got a scholarship if I kept playing football, but I stopped playing after my first year, so that was no longer an option. And then innovation requires risk, and as you age, your risk diminishes. Yes, someone with a family in their 50s isn't going to dump the savings into crypto, but that's not really the point that I'm trying to make. I'm not saying dump the savings, but I'm saying like they don't even put 1%. They won't even have the conversation. Is more so my point. But things are getting crazy enough where people are starting to come to me. Like I have one uncle who's like the business guy in our family, and he's now crypto curious because he sees everything going crazy.
Love it. And yeah, like it's two different conversations, especially for once again, someone who's supposed to be intellectually curious and honest. Like you don't have to invest in it to be like, first off, I don't get it.
Yes.
And I just don't get it.
Mm-hmm. Whereas most people attack.
Yeah, and that's what they do. These professors, they're like, "Oh, that's dumb, go away, stay away." And I remember my friend, he was like, he brought it up to his professor, he legit got mad at him for talking about crypto. So it's just like, that's the response. So yeah, don't be discouraged by anything like that. It's totally super common.
Think about their incentives, right?
Yeah.
Like it's kind of rare to be a very curious person, which is why we have the mantra for the show, stay curious, because I think it's very important. But a lot of people, they don't really have much incentive, especially because a comfort usually creates complacency. And I think a lot of people that won in the previous climates, they're incredibly complacent. Like they don't care because they don't need to.
Mm-hmm.
Right? Like that's why do you think the older generation doesn't give a shit that like so many of our peers are like truly poor? Because they don't care. They don't think about it. Right? And they're like, pull up your bootstraps, man. Like you got to work harder. It's like, brother, like look around, read the room. But there's a good comment here saying, young people all know the system is rigged. Going forward, it won't work anymore. That's why I'm pretty confident that there will be some pretty serious change. I don't know how it'll happen. Obviously, we hope that it's from the opting out and choosing a crypto system, whatever it is, if that's Bitcoin, if that's Jeff Booth's thesis, or if it's something else, or if it's a combination of all those things, that's pretty well what I think it will be more so. I don't think it'll be like one layer winner, like where Jeff's saying it'll be just Bitcoin. Have you changed your opinion on that?
Zero. Everything is going to zero versus Bitcoin, Ben. What are you talking about?
Do you honestly believe that, or are you trolling me?
No, I'm just saying that's one of the leading thoughts, man.
It seems like it's growing some traction, but I think it's because I think it might be a purely psychological thing. I think that's an easier thing for people to get behind.
I think it does make more. Yeah, it's like it makes, if you believe that, then it makes everything else feel easier to justify, I feel like.
Totally.
Because you got to think that like the world's going to look like funky in the next 10 years if you think that if there's a bunch of other cryptos that could potentially have a chance.
Mm-hmm.
Like the world would look it's going to look like Star Trek craziness if that's what's going on, you know?
Yeah. How I'm hopeful that it happens is that it doesn't just have that Bitcoin take all, unless I hope that like there's experiments done where in real world where the people who have tried to solve these different systems in different ways get to actually see their work in action. Right. And like, does it improve the quality of life for the end user, which is supposed to be the ultimate point? Right. And then if that happens, like Balaji talks about this a lot, where basically, and you've talked about it too, where the new like divide is basically the internet. And if that were to happen, and basically whichever nation states were to decide which system they're using to manage these different systems, the quality of life that they give to their people would dictate who lives there and who doesn't.
Wait, hold on. I'm confused.
So Balaji's making this new country because he says that the systems are all broken, blah, 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 right?
Okay.
I'm saying that if the global economy truly does go purely online, and we've talked about this briefly before, but the dynamic would change where I'm stuck here in my nation state, right? Because they have access to so much red tape, like getting my money out of here. To leave this fucking country, Keith, I'm going to have to pay absurd amount of taxes just to leave.
Mm-hmm.
That's so crazy, right? If everything goes online and they don't have these things to like hold the gun to your head, basically to do that, then it becomes more of a free market for come live here. Bring me your online money that you create yourself.
Right.
And then in that turn, like which system is best should in turn give the best quality of life to the people that are living there. But we'll see.
And so you're saying that, or are you also saying that like the crypto systems could work in that same kind of a way where it's like whatever the best offering is the one that people would use, or
Yeah,
how are you?
pretty much. Yeah, exactly. Right. Like, so let's say Charles's whole thing was that he wants to build a system for if you let's say Cardano gets a chance at this or whatever system does. His whole thing was that he thought that I'm butchering his line, but he said he wanted finance, something, an expression, whatever it is. Go look up his quote. But basically, all the different systems that we have in a world for governance and all these different things that we don't really think about, but it's what maintains order around us, right? A lot of these things that he's built has been to try to give those better outcomes. And so if that went into a nation state and solved a lot of the problems, reduced corruption, all these different things, then in turn, more people you'd hope would use it. And also the thing is, his whole thesis now is that the rate of change pushing us towards anarchy is so fast that he thinks these nation states are going to come like begging the crypto people, being like, how do we implement this stuff? We need it now.
That's an interesting thought for sure.
And that could have all been planned. Who knows? But like, that's his whole concept.
Yeah, that's actually super fascinating. Because yeah, this is like a step back from pure anarchy because there is a system of some sort.
Yes. And that's also, I was trying to explain this to someone yesterday because they want to start their own business, but they haven't really worked hard. And so I've tried to get them to grasp the concept of, do you know how rare it is to be someone that actually makes their own money? You're so much less reliant, and on the global marketplace, you become so much more valuable. I come to your country and I only bring money. I'm not going to be a strain on the system. You know what I'm saying? So like that gives people so much more of an advantage to like move around. And I'm sure there's going to be, if this reality comes, which I think has a chance to, I think there's gonna be more and more competition. Be like, entrepreneur, come to me, right? And then you'll get more and more incentives to go to these countries.
Yeah, it makes me think back to our conversation with oh man,
Wealthy expat.
Yeah, the wealthy expat, and like he was talking about how the UAE, basically, I think he was talking about this. They had to raise their tax rates. They had to like put some sort of a minimum tax rate because otherwise countries were like getting upset and trying to cut them off from trade and whatnot. It's like, that's a crazy thought.
You got to think they're cooked now, though.
The UAE.
Yeah.
Oh man. I mean, it's interesting. There's a lot of people who are just like, yeah, I'm here, like whatever. Da, da, da. But I think for like the super wealthy people, like, I ain't going back
if you're already that rich, why take that risk?
Yeah. And it's just funny too. Like, I mean, I hate to say it like this, but like, bro, you were still in the Middle East the whole time. You know what I mean? Like, there was never really any safety net around you. But tough.
It's a fascinating thing to see play out. What a wild social experiment, eh?
Yeah.
It's crazy. I had some buddies that moved there, and I had one buddy that like fled recently, and then I have a few buddies that are still there.
Word. Yeah. I mean, I was just also like, what is the actual pull? I mean, for Europeans, it does make sense.
Why is
And
that?
that's because you can actually get out of your tax situation. Like you can actually enjoy the 0% tax rate. Whereas for an
Oh yeah,
American, it
you
doesn't
guys
make sense.
have to still pay taxes in
Yeah.
America, right? Yeah, so I should say that when I do pay the taxes to leave, the exit tax in Canada, I won't have to continue paying taxes.
Right.
So-
Which technically also comes with you. Do you have to give up your citizenship to Canada or no?
I don't know how that's gonna work. I would.
Yeah, that's fair. But yeah, that's the thing is technically if you give up your US citizenship, then you have to do that thing that you're talking about where it's like, okay, well, everything that you own now, you need to pay taxes on all of that.
So you can,
And
if
then
you want
you're
to.
free. Yeah.
Okay. So it's not
Yeah.
that dissimilar.
Yeah. Well, it's just that for Europeans, you don't have to give up your citizenship to not have to pay European taxes.
Got it.
You can still be a citizen of where you're from.
Cool.
So yeah, so it's like, okay, that makes sense. I think Australians also get away with that too.
Thomas really wants us to look at the sovereign wealth fund. I try not to touch the Canada shit because I really don't want to attract Canadians into this show, to be honest.
There's a lot of spiciness over there.
Yeah, it's just not worth touching, man. Thomas, obviously you're a legend, and there's so many awesome Canadians here. It's just like they've politicized us to such great degrees where I just don't see the pro in it.
It might be the thing that takes us off, man.
Well, I'll do that when I've settled on my tax situation and I'm living in America, so I don't have angry people coming to hurt me.
Yeah, for sure, bro. For sure. But
So,
yeah.
But do you want to move into the news?
I got some news, Ben.
Hit me with the news.
This morning we heard from Coinbase making some awesome updates. They just laid off 14% of their workforce, apparently partly because of AI. So 14% of their workforce is going to mean cutting around 700 people or so.
Damn, they're that big, eh?
Yep. The company is citing volatile markets and AI, but firing workers has also been a sure way for companies to drive up stock prices, is something that More Perfect Union is pointing out this morning on that news. I haven't actually looked at the stock price, but we are during market hours. So let's see what the impact of that has been. So far, we can see that Coinbase is down on the day from the open. Started at 209, down here at about 195. So a little bit of a drop in the price of the Coinbase stock today. Any initial thoughts on this, Ben?
Could be a decent business move for them if it's actually not going to impact their operations of things. Like, I feel like that's a pretty standard business decision, especially if it can get them some positive momentum. Especially because they really attached themselves as he was like the brand champion for Clarity, right? So I think it's also relevant where if they can be in the news and their stock's going up at the same time as that, I think that could be a tailwind that takes them even higher.
Interesting take there for sure. So yeah, I mean, we've over the past year or so, I guess, seen a nice amount of layoffs coming out of the crypto space. Coinbase doing this is, they're one of the higher quality. I mean, one of the few public companies. I mean, there's a lot of public companies to a degree, but one of the only public crypto exchanges at the very least. And they're kind of like the flagship crypto company. When I think of Coinbase, I think of, hey, this is like the leader of crypto, period.
And it'll be fascinating to see who becomes the face of crypto for non-crypto people. Because you do need those characters to push it, right? Like if you think about the internet, why like a big pusher of the internet was the characters of Zuckerberg, Bezos, right? Like they were things that people could rally behind and talk about all the time. It's definitely been beaten to a pulp. Steve Jobs was a big one too. I was watching some of his speeches the other day.
Man, I really wonder what he would have to say about the world right now.
About crypto or the world?
About everything. Yeah.
Yeah. Who knows? What else you got for the news?
So the next thing that we saw this morning as well, actually, Securitize just partnered with Jump Trading and Jupiter Exchange to launch fully on-chain regulated trading for tokenized equities on Solana. This integration combines Securitize's regulatory infrastructure, Jump's liquidity, and Jupiter's distribution for tokenized equities. So there's actually something really genius here that I like.
Explain.
So Securitize, what they did almost like a decade ago now, they pursued the regulatory licenses that you would need to be a financial service provider in crypto. So they got their broker-dealer's license, they got their ATS license, which is an alternative trading system, and so on. And so they became the broker-dealer of crypto. Now, you move forward and you think about how do you actually get tokenized securities to become a thing? Because right now it's not a thing, really. I mean, it's starting to finally become a thing. And in fact, the DTCC just yesterday or a couple of days ago reiterated that they will be going live with tokenized securities trading in the second half of 2026, which is wild, by the way. Like, this is crazy. It's actually happening.
Why is that wild?
You're talking about the infrastructure for all of securities trading. The organization responsible for the settlement of $1+ quadrillion of trades
Wow.
every single year is legitimately tokenizing stock trading, and they're doing it on public like blockchains to some degree.
Dang.
So crazy stuff. And so Securitize, one of the old school people that have been trying to push this stuff forward for quite some time. The biggest problem with securities, with tokenized securities, is liquidity. Like no one's buying them. Okay, you can tokenize a security, but people aren't buying them, and therefore, if no one's buying them, you can't really sell them. You're not actually getting any of the benefits of having a tokenized security. You had these basically blockchain capital was one of the things that was a tokenized security from the old days, T0 back in the day. And like, there's no liquidity on these platforms. You got to think about it. The NYSE has been around for 100+ years or whatever. And you can buy on the New York Stock Exchange from any broker, right? You can go to Charles Schwab, you can go to TD Ameritrade, you can go to Robinhood, all these different places. You're buying on that brokerage, but they're syndicating that order to the exchange where the trades are actually happening. But with tokenized securities, you've got one broker, right? Or one exchange. And there's just not, there's 1-2 brokers for the exchanging of these things. And there is no like standardized exchange, rather. There isn't that. And so this is why it's so important that the NYSE is going through as well with tokenized securities, because then you don't have to get people to come to your venue. Tokenized securities was never going to get people who don't know anything about anything to come over there and buy securities. They don't care. No one cares. So Jump Trading, okay, they're a big liquidity provider in the crypto space. So whenever someone wants to launch a project that no one's going to buy, you go to Jump Trading or one of these other liquidity providing platforms, and they provide liquidity. They get on the other side of every trade that's going to happen on the platform. So Jump Trading being a participant in this is huge because now you've got liquidity for your stuff. But then also Jupiter, being Solana's major DEX, as the distribution engine, because there's a lot of people that trade on Jupiter. There's a lot of products and meme coins and this and that that are being traded up and down on Jupiter. So this was the big problem that we were saying before. No one's on securities, tokenized securities platforms. No one cares. But if you bring the securities to the platform where everyone's trading already, now you've got some real demand. Now you've got some real trading that can take place. So this is the genius of what they've done here.
That's really what you got to do, right? You gotta get the usage and make it easy.
100%. So moving forward.
And so if you were to try to like take advantage of that, what would you be looking at?
Buying securitized stock if it's available. I don't know if they're not public yet, but funny enough, trying to understand the alpha on what Securitize is doing specifically and trying to find a way to invest in that in particular. Because they are going to continue to be at the forefront of this. And it's a really wild thing to watch because, I mean, dude, I've been around Securitize since before no one knew what this was, bro. It was just like a bunch of weirdos who were talking about tokenized securities back when people were like, bro, crypto is a joke. So like to watch this company evolve and actually be at the forefront of some of this and having a tokenized product with BlackRock, like it's pretty wild.
That's a big deal.
But anyways, so yeah, just it's tough because the people that are going to make money on this are going to be the financial companies, to be honest. Like they're the ones who are going to benefit from this the most. So we also got some data that came out this week about prediction markets. Frank Chaparro here reporting on this, saying 0.1% of accounts on Polymarket take home 67% of the profits, according to Wall Street Journal analysis.
Dang. I wonder how that compares to just general gambling.
Well, it's a tough thing to compare because technically, I guess your point is for the amount of people that participate, how many of them are profitable. But the thing about these prediction markets is that they're PVP, which is very different from gambling, typically.
Yeah. I'm just referring to like how much of the profits are made by how many people, you know?
Right. Of any profits that are being made.
Yes.
percentage of the
Could imagine that anybody that's making money on gambling in any sort of serious way is probably like a huge whale.
Yeah, probably not too dissimilar. Good point. Another thing that we had come up here over the past few days or so is World Liberty Fi coming out against Mr. Justin Sun.
Yeah, some beef.
With a little bit of a lawsuit, coming out. From what I understand, I believe Justin Sun had started this and sued them, and then they're suing back. World Liberty Fi launching a lawsuit against Justin Sun for defamation. Sun has launched a coordinated media smear campaign against World Liberty Financial and refused to even stop when confronted with the truth. Here's the story, and then they go on about it. And I believe Justin Sun did respond to
Did he?
them.
And so who is Justin Sun?
Justin Sun is the founder of Tron,
Mm-hmm.
a popular blockchain amongst retail users. So I think China is where they have a massive, massive community.
And what makes Tron significant?
Kind of just what I said about it. It's kind of interesting. I mean, I don't understand it. I think it's just got this cult-like community, kind of like how Ripple does, right? Like it's kind of this functional blockchain that works enough to be able to get behind it and rally behind it. And in China, it's just a massive thing. And it was one of the earlier like platforms.
I think they really branded themselves, from my understanding, as a focus on stable coins too, which definitely helped them a lot. Because if you look at their chart, they have like one of the only good charts in crypto, man. I'll show you.
Word.
And then go back and finish the story. But like if you look at the Tron chart, like people that are holding this are pretty happy.
Wow. That's actually crazy.
Yeah. There's not many charts that look like this in crypto.
At all. No way. Wow.
So
Incredible.
he's probably known as like one of the biggest, like he's probably one of the worst like public reputations, but like doesn't seem to impact the chart too much.
Yeah, so that's the other side of it, is just like people look at him and I don't know why he's seen as a scammer or whatever, but people look at him in that way. And then obviously the situation with the World Liberty Fi thing, where he kind of like was dealing with a lawsuit or a case that he had in the United States, buys into this thing, which is from the president himself, and then his case gets dropped, and then now they kind of screwed him over, and people are like, haha, that's what you get for playing with the devil or whatever, doing a deal with the devil kind of a thing. And so here we are with that, where they're filing a lawsuit. Justin Sun said something about it. He basically was saying this is ridiculous and simply them trying to do PR, essentially.
He tweeted that?
He did say something about that, yeah. Trying to find his account. I was like, I don't know if he's on here right now. I think he might have.
He took that down?
Yeah, I mean, his whole account is just, I don't know. Maybe he never had a Twitter account.
I don't know. I thought he did.
Yeah, let me try to find
I
him.
found him. Justin Sun Tron. He's got 3.9 million followers.
Yeah, so I'm trying to find. Okay, here it is. The alleged lawsuit that World Liberty announced on X today is nothing more than a meritless PR stunt. I stand by my actions and look forward to defeating this case in court. So that was his response to the whole thing. A ver, we will see what happens. Another thing that I don't think we've gotten to talk about just yet. Maybe we did. Maybe I'm tripping. Spirit Airlines shut down. Oh, we did, because we
said we'll talk about it today.
Yeah. So Spirit Airlines shut down. Customers are now having to figure out what they're going to do. The company had 17,000 employees. What's happened is some of the other airlines have started to try to step in to do things about it. United, Delta, JetBlue, and Southwest are all capping ticket prices, specifically for Spirit customers who now need to rebook canceled flights. American Airlines and Delta Airlines are offering reduced fares on high-volume Spirit routes. Allegiant has committed to freezing fare prices across routes that overlap with Spirit, and Frontier is offering up to 50% off base fares until May 10th. Most major U.S. carriers are extending travel pass benefits and spare jump seats to Spirit pilots, flight attendants, and other employees who need to return home. Major U.S. carriers also offer Spirit team members preferential employment interviews. Spirit Airlines officially shut down after 33 years.
How big was Spirit?
Pretty big, but I don't know if they were like the biggest, you know. Let's see what their revenues were. So as of early 2026, as they're navigating bankruptcy, they reported 2025 revenue of around 3.7 billion, right? Which is not that big compared to the larger airlines. I think it's probably like a tenth of what the largest airline is bringing in, if I'm not mistaken. Let me go ahead and just look real quick. So Delta Airlines is at 63 billion. So it's even 5% of that number there.
That's good to see, RD. She said, I was at an airport over the weekend. Other airlines are really helping Spirit customers.
That's cool. Very cool.
And their whole thing was that it was a budget airline, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
How much of the lore do you understand about Spirit?
Very little.
Oh man, that's hilarious, bro. Like, Spirit Airlines is notorious for being extremely ghetto,
Okay.
being extremely just like literally the first things that started coming out was all the memes about like, oh God, now we got to look out for Spirit Airlines customers on our airlines. Is what
Really?
they were talking about. It's kind of like the Carnival Cruise thing. Have you seen like all the
little
memes and
bit.
crazy stuff about that? It's like that. They're like the Carnival Cruises of the air. And
Okay, I got it.
people are just like, and it's a crazy concept because like I'm trying to like, I can't imagine you're on, and I've taken some Spirit flights too, and people make fun of me for it. They're like, hey, bro, like, come on, dude. Like, don't you value your life?
What?
It's fair. It's like stuff is kind of crazy. I never had any problems or saw anything because there's two sides of it. There's the people that are getting on the plane, and then there's the people that work at the company, and both of them are sometimes pretty questionable.
Really?
So
You're gonna get some heat.
it's crazy. It's crazy. You're gonna get some sass at the counter. You know what I'm saying? If you got any problems, you know, you gotta just be prepared to deal with some sass and anything else that may come with your Spirit Airlines ticket. But so it's hilarious what the people are doing about it. It's some of it's kind of messed up because like there's a level of like, you know, like it gets a little racist, you know what I mean? But at the end of the day, like it really just comes down to the fact that like these are the people that are on these flights. You know what I'm saying? And it's just documented. You see it all the time. You see people fighting at the Spirit Airlines counters and like crazy stuff. So that's like the montages. I'll just play it. Yeah. In the meme section. Yeah. Okay.
Spirit is trash, says
Actually,
the rebel.
Oh, here it is. Yeah, like look, I you know, I did it before, but all right. So
Oh shit.
Fuck out of here, you dirty bitch. Yes, you are.
What's he drinking?
They got some Patron. But just the idea that you could put together a montage of that for one specific airline is kind of crazy, you know.
This is. I'm sure you could, if you looked hard enough. I'm sure you could do that more. But it said Carnival is the Jerry Springer show equivalent of cruise lines.
Yeah, man. So just out of hand craziness, but you know, you knew that if you were using,
if you're doing it, yeah. We don't really have budget airlines in Canada. We pay crazy prices for flights here, like genuinely insane. That's why there's not that much traveling within Canada amongst Canadians because it's so expensive to do so. We get rinsed on taxes to go anywhere, and we've had budget airlines try to come up, but then they always go out of business. Like I think the most recent try was called Swoop. I flew with them. I think they were kind of like the equivalent of that. Oh no, they're still around apparently. So I take that back. Swoop. I didn't mean to talk shit.
Swoop. So yeah, man. Bye Spirit. At the end of the day, it's
WestJet now. Okay.
Not great for, I mean, just business stuff. But also, like we've talked about a little bit, I guess I talked about it on Saturday on my stream. Yeah, sign of what's going on with jet fuel prices. This was the thing that just put them over the edge.
That's crazy. Thomas, I mean, flying domestically is so expensive. What are you talking about? To go to like from here to BC is like it'd be cheaper for me to go to somewhere in the States. Like Florida would be way cheaper. California might even be cheaper.
Pull up to Cali.
Canada's a big country. Yeah, but flying across to America is just as big, if not bigger.
Yeah, Canada is a massive country, but I also do hear that. So the other thing that we got here is Amazon. Triple the amount of ebooks released on Amazon since ChatGPT was released. Okay, so here's a graphical version of that. And then Alex in books said, we went from 100,000 new ebooks a month to 300,000. Basically, 2 out of 3 new books are now AI slop, he says. So
2 out of 3.
So interesting stuff there.
Yes.
Some people say it's a good thing, some people say it's a bad thing.
Yeah, Thomas, looks like they're around the same price to fly to like California, or you can save a bit of money to go to BC. So yeah, expensive flying anywhere these days, especially with gas stuff. They're canceling a lot of flights in general too, aren't they?
Yeah, I mean, well, some airlines are starting to cancel flights. There's also this graphic floating around this morning around domestic flights in the US being up like 15% or something like that. So things starting to happen. I guess this was another thing that I could go ahead and actually bring up on the show. The Chevron CEO actually also just came out this, I guess maybe today, yesterday, and said that shortages in oil supply will begin appearing. So that's an interesting statement coming from the CEO of Chevron. But just things starting to actually have an impact on the real world a little bit here.
I think with the book thing, I actually think this will lead to like a renaissance of actually good books too, because people will be like, I think if you make something that's actually good, people will talk about it so much more.
Fair. Totally.
There's a bookstore that opened up near my place, and it's like a smut bookstore or whatever. Like
What's
girls
that?
like, it's like smut. In my understanding, is like, I don't know
It's like romance stuff.
Yeah, that's a great way to say it. I was gonna go way worse. So and it's busy all the time, man.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Interesting. Yeah, that's a crazy genre and concept. I remembered watching Diary of a CEO episode of some lady who was just like addicted to that stuff. And it was like crazy. She would like hide it from her husband, and
she went on Diary of a CEO to say it?
yeah. Yeah, I mean, she was like over it and then like helping people out of it kind of thing.
Got it.
Yeah.
Is that something people are addicted to now?
I guess so.
Yeah.
I mean, you could be addicted. You could be addicted to corn.
Yeah, it's probably. Yeah, that makes sense.
It's female corn.
Yeah, because yeah, that makes total sense. I guess I don't know. I can't relate. I've never read a smut book, but makes sense.
So now it's time for some reactions, Ben. We got to get your reaction to some stuff. Sam Altman, a couple of days ago, said, I keep thinking I want the models to be cheaper, faster, more than I want them to be smarter. But it seems that just being smarter is still the most important thing.
Yeah.
So some people are saying, what about smarter, cheaper, faster? Cheaper, faster is the way. Essentially, from what I saw from Asipa's notes, maybe he specifically was looking at this as saying, well, that means that he's okay with prices going up, right?
Yeah. Well, I think anybody that didn't think that they're going to dramatically increase prices is pretty ignorant.
Fair enough. I would imagine that the majority of people are ignorant.
That's probably fair, but it's happened very recently where it was a subsidized experience. We talk about this on the show like probably dozens of times at this point, right? Where like the experiences that you've come to know, they were never able to cost what they originally cost, but they needed you to get addicted, and the alternative is to go out of business.
100%, man. The next piece that we had here, I wonder how relatable this will be for you. Just in, McDonald's to remove self-serve soda fountains from all locations.
That makes sense.
Forget recession indicators. This is a societal collapse indicator, says Trey the Explainer.
Oh, yeah. Especially in America, y'all love soda.
Yeah, man. So definitely fascinating there.
There's a McDonald's near me. I'll check it out today to see, because I don't even know what their current deal is with that.
True. But yeah, so this one here, apparently there was in Baltimore, there was a bakery truck that got hit by a United Airlines plane coming down for a landing at Newark Liberty International Airport in New Jersey.
Holy fuck.
Is that real?
I think it is.
Is he okay?
I think he is.
Good.
Yeah, he had very minor injuries somehow.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's remarkable.
But so that one occurred, and then we've had okay. Mark Cuban has a comment on AI.
Let's hear it.
He says, I'm coming to the conclusion that the biggest challenge for enterprise AI and AI in general, as of now, is that it's still impossible to make sure that everyone gets the same answer to the same question every time, which is a great response to the doomers. AI doesn't know the consequences of its output. Judgment and the ability to challenge AI output is becoming increasingly necessary and valuable, which makes domain knowledge more valuable by the second. Am I wrong?
I don't think that's changed anything. Maybe it's exacerbated it as more it's more used, but that's always been the thing, right? Is that if you don't know what good is, an AI giving it to you won't like make you realize that, giving you output. And a lot of people also misconstrue like volume of output with quality, right? So if it gives you like these really long answers, like, oh, it must know a lot. It's like, right, signal from noise.
Very true. All right, folks, time for the pure jokes. Pure jokes. NFTs be like. So
that's totally fair.
That's what NFTs be like. And then I saw another one from Asipa where we had what being a parent is like. He says, say dada. The baby says dada. He's like, oh my God. And then somebody was like, low key, how do babies know how to skip the say part?
Wow.
I was like, honestly, that's kind of valid.
That's super valid.
And then this lady, Ellie Unchained, said, hear me out. AI deepfakes of Fox News anchors speaking the truth that we show to our parents.
I think she might be onto something, man.
I think that's pretty genius. Yeah, she kind of goes on to make it not as cool, but at the end of the day, I think that's pretty darn good. And then after the GameStop guy came out yesterday and was trying to justify how they were going to come up with the money to buy eBay, lots of memes circulating around. This one I thought was pretty good. Please select your payment type. It could be Visa, MasterCard, or
half stock.
Half cash, half stock. But I think that's the memes that I have for today.
Sweet. Well, chat, do y'all have anything else? We definitely appreciate you tuning in. And apparently our producer said that there were some pops with the audio today. That's because of our live streaming software. I've been going back and forth with them for literally weeks trying to solve this issue. There are other alternatives on the market, but the one that we wanted to use isn't available on Mac, which creates a problem. So we're kind of stuck to this platform, and I'm working with them to try to get it resolved. So apologies if you're listening back to this. It's also impacting the growth of our show a lot.
Yeah.
Super freaking annoying.
Totally, man. As you guys have any comments for us, we'll go back to last night. We did an evening stream. We did our first evening stream last night. So shout out to all of you who pulled up to that. We talked about the bubble that no one is talking about, which is the whole phenomenon with Pokemon. Actually, quite a few comments.
Yeah, I knew it'd get people going.
Bricks by Dan said, I think trading cards are a psyop to get people away from coin collecting. When the Poke bubble pops, silver will soar soon. Ben says, interesting, we'll see. Fred likes bread. Reprints of popular cards have happened many times before over the years, but it's usually got stamp or obvious indicator that it's a reprint. Thanks for the info. Tone World, bruh, I bought Doginals ages ago, and I don't even know how to access mine. LMAO. I had no idea they pumped. I didn't know it was old.
Read the one above as far as NFTs.
Okay. CryptoMon86.
Oh, that's the wrong one. Sorry. There's just someone talking about how like you need something tangible.
Oh, yeah. Okay. Andrew SS. The biggest difference between altcoins in comparison to Pokemon cards in regards to speculation is that cardboard's a tangible asset. Can't just make that disappear. Ben said, I really don't think this matters as much as people think.
I really, really don't think it matters.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think it does either. It's more about the market. Right?
Totally. Because like, yes, you are holding it. And maybe that was enough to get people into the door. But now that they've made money like this, I don't think it matters at all. What's up?
Mr. Lakini, bro, I've been DCing the F out of crypto.
I'm surprised that YouTube allows that to like show.
Why?
Well, because I guess we'd have to say it's for kids, and that's why they're not worried about it. The F word I'm saying in like text.
Oh yeah.
It's fair game.
Fair game, bro.
Fair
game. So yeah, no, that's what's going on over here on Memes and Markets. We also have been letting you guys know that we launched our highlights channel. So if you haven't already, it's going to be one of the first links in the description of this video. You can come over here, subscribe to the highlights channel for us. It's a huge favor to us when you do this. We are getting this highlights channel off the ground so people can find this podcast without having to be here live, without having to subscribe to or to sign up for a 3-hour long episode. Right. So we give them the highlights, we give them the good stuff. They come in to see the interviews, and if that's all they want, they can leave. And also, this is a great way for you to share this show with your friends and family as well.
Yes, please. We got 50 people still here live. Let's get that thing to 100 subs. We can do that. You'll also enjoy the content for one. And I do think that, like Keith said, to double down on that, it's far easier to share. Because like there's so many instances where you'll have conversations where you could send someone a piece of content, and I love doing that. But we understand that the full live stream is a lot for people to jump into, that they just won't do it. Whereas the probability of them actually watching these ones is far higher because they're a lot more optimized for retention.
100%. And even for when you, right, maybe miss an episode or want to go back and actually just get the meat and potatoes of the conversation, the Eminem Highlights channel is perfect for that because there's tons of stuff that's worth reviewing. In fact, I'll be using the Highlights channel in this way myself.
Totally. We got 1 subscriber.
Let's go. Every single one of you subscribing makes a difference.
Huge.
So don't think that you don't matter. You matter, and you help us move this mission forward.
Totally. 100% good. And then RD helped you out with an easy to access link in the chat. So there's 0 excuses here, folks.
Zero excuses.
That's it. What else you got for the people, Keith?
No, man, other than that, as always, guys, we are on Spotify as well. So if you can give us a review over there on Spotify, as well as give us a little bit of a follow, hit the little follow button, let Spotify know that that's what's going on. We would really appreciate that as well. And you can also find a link to Spotify in the description of this video. Go
show us some love. We appreciate you so much.
Yep.
And if you have someone that comes to mind, share it. But I don't think we stopped trying this. So Thomas says, cheers, Ben. I know Canada's pretty easy to rip on nowadays, but I don't think we should stop trying to strive for better at home. You do your thing, brother. Lots of crazy shit going on in the States as well. I completely understand that. And I also say that openly, right? But for my situation, I'm probably in the worst first world country I could be in. So it's like, I'm very well aware of that. Canada's an amazing place to live. And for many people, it is awesome, but I know it's not going to change in the ways that will improve my life. So I don't see a pro in getting shit on for trying to voice the problems. Like, right? So maybe that'll change, but I don't really see much value in it because the media machine here is just so powerful and people are so, like, one thing that's so fascinating is that they've been so bought in that my mom even just posted something that is against general consensus, or at least what we're led to believe is consensus. And when she posted it, I literally just said, "You're going to get in trouble for this." And a bunch of people replied to her, like giving her shit for having an opinion on something. And I'm like, that's the state that we're at. It's the same in the States too, but at least you have a little bit of a counterweight. Like you got some crazies on both sides. And I think it's probably it's pretty close to 50-50 for you guys.
50-50 in terms of what?
Like the amount of crazies on the right is similar to the crazies on the left.
I guess it's definitely much closer to 50-50 than what's going on over there.
Our country is so skewed to one way because of how the media machine works here. So yeah, I totally agree with you, Thomas. I love Canada, and I hope it goes awesome, and I hope everything sorts itself out. But I've been wanting to get out of here for a long time because I saw this shit coming. When I was in college, my first year, that's when I really, in like concrete, was like, I need to get out of here. And Thomas, you may be right. Like and I certainly hope that is the case. But in the current climate of things, there's no like.
The problem, dude, is that y'all's media is co-opted. Like, there's no way out.
That's what I'm saying. How do I even talk to these people? You can't, right? And so, and I know, and the thing is that they've done this so brilliantly that the person trying to help them will be seen as the enemy, which is like, that's PSYOP 101. You know what I mean?
It's like, if you look back, and I could totally do way more studying on the history of all of this, but once the media is compromised,
it's cooked.
There's no real way out of it because all of the certain routes, they're going to be blocked. You're going to be seen as the enemy, like you said.
Yes.
And the government owns it. So you can't get ownership of it. You can't do anything.
It also is the sheer force for, because so many people's jobs are in this country are either for the government directly or for crown-owned corporations. So now, like, think about the sheer energetic like force there. You're cooked, man. The only way this can happen is it'd have to be somewhere, like someone would have to push this from not here. And like, so good luck. But yes, media state cooked in the States, but you can actually say shit. If you say shit here, there might be police officers that come to my door if I say something they don't like.
Yeah, it's not the same thing, Thomas. Like, and I don't know what's happening in Canada, but at the end of the day, like, first off, the internet part of it is also not completely controlled to the way that you guys have some of that problem too. Like, like the other companies that would compete get squeezed is the difference there too, because of the fact that you have this government-owned entity.
Totally.
Our companies, you're not squeezed by some big government actor. Anyone can spin up a company, you can succeed, you can win, because there's no like force that's essentially pushing you out of the market.
They have it's a great point, Keith. Like the state-owned stuff here is so big, right? That naturally you are a competitor if you have an opposing view opinion, or even if you're saying the same thing as them, you're still a competitor. But like they're so big and they have such a critical mass, they'll just say that's a lie or that's wrong, and enough people will believe it. It's essentially true.
Yeah.
So that's But it is one weird thing I will say is that so Carney got his majority from the floor crossers, right? And then they've been doing these like closed door meetings, which is very abnormal. And even the state-owned stuff have been shitting on them a bit.
Interesting.
And so it's like, do you think they're doing that because people are now a little aware that this shit is bullshit and they're trying to get some trust back?
Right.
Or are they actually shitting on them?
Interesting.
Super interesting to see. But that's the
Yeah.
first time I've ever seen them say something even remotely negative about Carney.
Wow.
The first time. So
yeah, dude. Yeah, trust me. I go to the gym and there's like CNN and Fox, and literally
Same.
right next to each other, they're saying the opposite thing about the same exact thing that's going on. So it's there, but we all know though, like we're all like, bro, like this is complete BS on both sides.
yes.
You know? And so we go to the internet and we look at these alternative sources and we try to find the truth for ourselves. And so
Which is not easy to do.
mm-mm.
It's so hard. That's why a platform like there's some platforms out there. I won't give them free press. If they come and reach out to us, then then I'll say it out loud. But there's some platforms out there that try to solve that problem because the bias is just so strong. And yeah, it's the same stuff here in Canada. Like when I go to the gym, it's kind of weird that like that's what's on. I guess it's the only thing that's on all the time is the news.
Yeah, facts. Yeah, I mean it's definitely the highest quality thing, either sports or that, right?
Yeah.
It's gonna for sure want people wanting to see it.
Yeah, no, in Canada, to clarify, like I love Canada so much, and it was an awesome place to grow up. I actually am more glad that I grew up in Canada than in America. Like it seems like a lot of truthfully, I'm glad I grew up here with a mixture of capitalism and social systems that benefit the country as a whole. Yeah, Thomas, you're a smart dude, and I completely agree with you. I just don't know if we're gonna have the opportunity to say these things. I guess I just believe personally that there's a better way forward with a mixture of capitalism and social systems that benefit the country as a whole. I think it's a great conversation. I'd love to hear you guys talk more about it. I'm not touching it. But yeah, I agree with you. And I think you should start a podcast and do it, Thomas. I will be the first viewer of that content.
We will view, we will subscribe.
What's up?
Something kind of loud.
You okay? What's up, chat? And Thomas, I totally hear you. I totally agree. And I'm very hopeful that that happens. But like they'll try to make examples of the people that try to do that. Right. And so that's not something that I'm willing to do. So yeah.
I'm good.
Everything's okay?
Yeah.
Cool. But Thomas, I really appreciate you bringing that forward, and I think that's awesome. And I think the message or the real answer is like doing it on a micro scale too. Like I do try to have the conversations with my family and friends, and I don't try to say like, oh, they're like you're dumb or you're indoctrinated or whatever. I'll just try to send them some things to make them think a little bit. I've had some success with that about like, okay, maybe you're too far down this, and it goes on both sides, of course. But media literacy is a very big problem. And I sent later. We should show you the video. We'll show the video that I sent you last night, Keith. That was super funny. That's related to the same thing.
Yeah.
At a later date, we'll show that because that was comedy.
For sure, man. Yeah,
Thomas, you should get into politics. I think you do really well. To be honest, you're smart. Clearly, you're open-minded, and I think you would do well. So, your girlfriend, I agree with her.
Love it, man. Yeah, it's definitely if you feel strongly about this stuff, man,
do it. I also don't spend as much time watching it as you do, Thomas, because it just makes me sad. So I try not to watch it because it's easier to me watch. It sounds a little weird, but it's easier for me to watch the crazy shit going on in America because I'm not American. Do you know what I'm saying?
For sure.
Yeah. But that's it, Thomas. I appreciate you. Yeah, and there's definitely Artie's right. There's tons of people that feel like him too. I think you should probably make a podcast about this stuff. I think it would do well, truthfully. And that's kind of connected to the video that I sent you yesterday. I can confirm it is a lucrative niche.
Yeah, facts.
That's it, man. It was great chatting with all of you guys. Thank you so much. Appreciate you guys tremendously. You in the chat make the episode so much fun. Without you, it would be nothing. So we appreciate all you guys. Anything else, Keith?
That's it for me.
Cool. Awesome. Well, thank you guys so much. We'll be back on Thursday. We have another guest scheduled, correct?
That's correct.
Cool. So definitely tune in. If you're watching the replay, make sure to click the subscribe button and turn on all notifications so that you get notified whenever we go live. We will be going live at random times in the nighttime sometimes too. So definitely you want those on to be notified. But the normally scheduled programming is 12 p.m. at Tuesday and Thursday Eastern time.
Make today the best day of your life, folks.
That's it, guys. Be the light that you want to see, and we will see all of you wonderful people on Thursday. Have a wonderful, wonderful evening. Bye-bye.